Peter Greste and his colleagues Mohamed Fahmy and Mohamed, Al Jazeera journalists, have been in prison in Egypt since December 29, 2013. Greste penned a letter just before Christmas from his cell. The letter was first published in the Sydney Morning Herald. I write to all our friends and supporters from my jail cell in Mazraa Prison, Cairo. As we approach Christmas and the rather inauspicious anniversary of our arrest on December 29, there is a temptation to become morose over our continued detention. After all, on paper we don't seem to have made much progress. The three of us, myself and my colleagues Mohamed Fahmy and Mohamed, are still in prison, still convicted of broadcasting false news and aiding a terrorist organization, and still just 1 year into prison sentences of 7 years for myself and Fahmy, and 10 years for Bayer. But, at the same time, we have changed something fundamental. We, and by that I mean all involved in this fight for justice, including us three, our families, and you, our supporters, have created a huge global awareness of not just our cause, but the far wider and more vital issues of press freedom, the persecution of journalists, and of justice in Egypt. We have galvanized an incredible coalition of political, diplomatic, and media figures, as well as a vast army of social media supporters to fight for that most basic of rights, the right to know. Public discussions reignited. Everyone, from US President Barack Obama to the Ban Ki-moon, UN Secretary General, to Tony Abbott, Prime Minister, has been speaking out both publicly and in private to demand our release and call for a free press in Egypt. But even more than that, we have reignited public discussion and awareness of the vital role that unfettered journalism plays in any healthy, functioning democracy. Sometimes it is easy to forget why we need it at all. Journalism can, at times, look pretty sordid, and few of us who work in it can claim to have never succumbed to the more base instincts of our trade. And in the wired world of the internet, with its citizen reporters and millions of sources, it is tempting to wonder why we need professional journalists at all. But that noise is the reason itself. Never has clear-eyed, critical, skeptical journalism been more necessary to help make sense of a world overloaded with information. We should never forget that journalism is not a science. It is a human craft as vulnerable to biases and inaccuracies and flaws as any other. And, at its worst, it can be quite destructive. But the reason we still buy newspapers, listen to the radio or switch on the evening's TV news bulletin is to find context and understanding, a sense of perspective. The best journalism puts a frame around an issue. It helps define it, clarifies it, makes sense of it. And, above all, it challenges authority. In a functioning democracy, political legitimacy comes from the voters. We, the people, hire politicians. Good old-fashioned accountability. As with any responsible business, it is incumbent on employers to keep an eye on their employees and, as we all know, we tend to work better, more efficiently, and more honestly when we know we are being monitored. I am not talking of a Big Brother society here. Just good old-fashioned accountability. The philosopher and writer Albert Camus was absolutely right when he said the press can, of course, be both good and bad, but without freedom it can never be anything but bad. That is why our cause, as opposed to simply our case, is so important, and not just for Egypt. The noise you all have been making sends a clear and unequivocal message to politicians around the world: a free press is an indivisible part of a free society. As we approach the end of our first year in prison, I cannot help but feel proud and strengthened by all that has been achieved so far. We haven't won this fight yet, we are still behind bars after all, but we have made our cause abundantly and unequivocally clear. And for that reason, it really is a very good Christmas. So, from our cell in Cairo, all the very best in season's greetings.